Hi, this is Dr. Emma Offord, host of This Voice is Mine, the Unquiet Podcast. For every neurodivergent mind that was masked, misread or missed, where identity is reclaimed and the system gets named, This Voice is Mine is a podcast for those who were told they were too much, too sensitive, too chaotic, too intense or not enough. Hosted by myself, Dr. Emma Offord, a clinical psychologist, neurodivergent woman and unapologetic system disruptor. This podcast explores what happens when difference is pathologized and what becomes possible when we drop the shame, the script and the medical model. Through stories, reflections and conversations with people who were never meant to fit, This Voice is Mine reclaims the truth of neurodivergent minds, bodies and ways of being. This is not about fixing or fitting in. It's about remembering who we are and unlearning everything they got wrong. Today's conversation explores something deeply personal and quietly radical. What happens when parenting neurodivergent children doesn't just change how you see them, but changes how you finally see yourself? My guest today is Linsey Biggs, a full-time parent carer to 3 children, navigating a path that looks very different from the one many families are told is the right one. After her eldest experienced autistic burnout and significant school trauma, Linsey made the courageous decision to step outside conventional education and create a different life for her family. Through her children's journeys, Linsey also began to recognise her own neurodivergence and revisit the school trauma that shaped so many of her own adolescence and adulthood. She is deeply passionate about advocating for children as whole humans, not projects to manage or adults in training, and about challenging the assumptions we hold around learning, success, and what children truly need to thrive. Linsey, welcome to the podcast. So delighted to have Linsey from Unschooling Stanley here on the podcast, and we've been following you for years and years, and I know you've been following us, and it's been like this, social media relationship that's blossomed, and it's so great to see you in real life. Thank you for coming today.
I'm so happy to be here. It's amazing. Thank you so much.
And you travelled all the way from the Isle of Wight, and it's a heat wave, everybody.
Heat wave.
So it's been hard work for everybody to get here today.
Little Linsey from the Isle of Wight that's used to fields and sheep and horses, and just ferry travel is fine, but trains in London is scary.
Yeah,
so.
you
But
got
we made
here.
it. I know.
Yeah.
Very proud of myself.
Yeah, well, proud of all of us.
Yeah, we're doing it.
So Linsey, for those listeners who maybe they don't know as much about you as we do, can you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Linsey. I have 3 amazing neurodivergent children, and through them I'm self-diagnosed neurodivergent myself. I would love one day to have a diagnosis, because that validation would be like everything, but I absolutely know I am neurodivergent.
Yeah.
It would just be, I see how much it benefits my children. 2 out of 3 are diagnosed now, and I'm absolutely sure, even at 3.5 years old, that my daughter is neurodivergent too. So as a family, I feel like we've been on this whole, I'd say about 8-year journey from when my now 12-year-old was younger. He was the one that kind of showed us this new light, that it just, nothing was working. All the mainstream things were just absolutely not working. From preschool to school to groups to all the things that you would do with, when you're trying to be a typical family and do typical things. And I feel that as quite a young mum, I was only 23, I can't remember now, but 22, 23 when I had Stan. And so I was trying to just copy what everyone else was doing. And even though it felt way too hard, and for him it was way too hard, we just pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And the warning signs were there even at 9, when he was 9 months old. I had physical symptoms of burnout. I was so poorly. I was in hospital having heart scans, and I pretty much dropped him into his cot because my arms would just give way. I was absolutely exhausted from just trying so hard to just do all the things, and I just couldn't keep it up any longer. So I had to lean on support, but something wouldn't let me lean on support. I was so convinced that nobody else could look after this little one the way I could. And so I think from like becoming a mum and having a baby that was absolutely not typical and never ever slept, and, you know, just did all the very typical neurodivergent things of a baby and toddler. It took kind of really breaking both of us and having to completely rebuild this whole different life that we live now, which is a life without school. My children don't go to school. One of them has, and he had school trauma from his year at school. The middle one, who's 8.5, has never been to school, and my 3.5-year-old hasn't been to preschool or any kind of childcare. And the plan is that we just carry on doing life, and people find that really crazy, but actually it's just become really normal for us, and I can't imagine life any other way, because it really suits our nervous systems. And I absolutely know that my eldest would struggle so much more if we didn't do things the way we did them. I know that all of us as a family, learning about autism, learning about ADHD, PDA, has really allowed us to just embrace this more organic life that really does suit us. And so I just think, why not do things differently if it's actually going to benefit you all? And you know, I feel like I'm getting much more confident in the last few years now that everyone is getting older and we're doing it. And it's not, I'm not kind of, I don't mind if people want to judge, it's because they don't understand. And it's so, people are so brainwashed by the school system, and that's how things are done, that they don't recognise when there's this whole other way that makes sense once you're doing it, and you kind of see the proof that it's still working and children are still thriving and learning and growing, but it looks completely different at school. And so that's kind of my story in a way, how I've got to here. And I just share, I used to share on Instagram about home education, because it started off like more like school at home, and that soon changed to be much more like unschooling. I didn't even know what unschooling was when I named the Instagram page Unschooling Stanley. It was just that sounded good to me, and then I found this whole like community of people that were doing this unschooling and game schooling and all different types of schooling and forest schooling, and I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. And then as we learnt more and more about Stan and PDA and like having to learn through autonomy, completely self-driven kind of interest-based learning, is how now I kind of share much more about just children as a whole and how they can just thrive by totally being themselves and learning what interests them and being led by what feels good and safe. And it can look totally different to school, and that's okay.
Sorry. It's amazing, you know, how you raise the voice of unschooling, and how you show people that there is a way to do this, and a life that can be led, that is full, that is regulating, that is right for children. Something you said though when you were explaining about your story, I think it would be a good place to start, is to think about how you didn't know about your own neurodivergence, you didn't necessarily know about your child's neurodivergence, and it took you to kind of breaking point. But at that point you didn't know that unschooling was going to be the right way. It's something that a lot of people talk about, that they feel very unsure because it goes against the mainstream idea that this is what you should be doing and this is the right thing for all children. So to me that must have been, I imagine that would have been not the easiest of choices at that point, because now you know, but then you didn't know, did you?
I can sit here today and feel much more confident and talk about it, but 4 years ago even, I still, people talk about the wobbles all the time when you're choosing a different path and choosing outside of the school system, because the school system has such a powerful thing over people, much more than you realise, in families, in outside of that system. As soon as you step out of that, people are always going to judge you and have an opinion on that you're not doing it right or not doing so. And so I think, those wobbles come thick and fast. They really do knock you, and you just have to keep kind of holding on to your why and why we're there. And I definitely, back then, I just kept believing in Stan. Like, I just kept looking at this little boy that could not do anything else but keep choosing him, just keep choosing that he couldn't access the things that other children would enjoy. And yes, they were not saying any of these things are bad for some children, but there are children that really do need something completely different. And I think the only way, looking back, that got me through to have the confidence that I do now, and kind of the proof and the path, you know, is already trod, it's just the fact that I just kept looking at him and going, every time I try to push him a little bit, we go back all the way to the start again. So we have to choose a different way. I don't have another choice. I never, taking him out of school, I didn't feel that I had this plan. I didn't have any plan. I just knew that it wasn't working, and I was going to have to try and find something else, and just started with nothing, just love for my child, I suppose, and know that I didn't know, pulling him out of school, I still didn't know he was autistic then. I just knew that he was struggling so much more than what people realised. And you know,
are you able to talk a little bit about what that struggle looked like at the time?
Definitely. So he, from 3 years old, he would absolutely be a preschool refuser, so he wouldn't go stay at preschool, which is exactly fun. It's funny because it's my story as well. So my mum would always go to preschool with me. I went to preschool with Stan. It took months and months and months before he would stay there, and I wasn't happy to just leave him until he found a buddy with one of the key workers, and he absolutely loved her, and then he would kind of go, and as long as she was there, he would just sit with her. He wouldn't play with other children, he wouldn't talk to other children, he would just be with his key worker. And so when school then came around, I was like, well, he hasn't got the key worker, he's not going to have a one-to-one, which is basically what he had. And he just started really, really struggling. He, first of all, the refusal got much more strained. So it would kind of start off that it would be, I can't put my school clothes on, I can't, eat my breakfast. But then it would go further back, so he wouldn't be able to go to sleep the night before because he knew that he was going to go to school. And this was just affecting so much of his life. He was just crying and melting down and angry and just beside himself all the time. He was so stressed, and he didn't enjoy school. They would always tell me that he was fine at school. They would always say that, once you're there, he's just got anxiety and, he just wants you. But once you're not there anymore, he's fine. He was absolutely not fine. And he's talked a lot about how adults, and I believe him, they lied to me in front of him, saying that things hadn't happened that had. He just struggled so much. The demand avoidance was, because his anxiety was so high with PDA, looking back, it's like as soon as you're more anxious, then you're going to be much less able to access things. So he couldn't even access the toilets, he couldn't access eating lunch, he couldn't access getting changed that he could do at home, but he couldn't do it. So he just refused absolutely everything. They said he couldn't read, he couldn't write. Now, if you met him, he is literally the most incredible boy ever. He is so clever, he's amazing, he's just, we call him an absolute legend. He really is some sort of nutty professor. He's just so cool. And it blows my mind that they had this version of him that just didn't make sense to me, because I was like, this little boy that I've known for all this time is absolutely just crumbling away. And the months and months and a whole year went by, and honestly, it wasn't just his mental health. He was poorly, I would say. He really was physically unwell. He had repeated tonsillitis to the point of having to have a tonsillectomy. He was just so low. He just looked awful for a little boy. He had no life about him. He lost the ability to play and enjoy things that he did enjoy because it just destroyed him. It was so sad, and it just got to the point where he started year one. Everyone was telling me it's going to get better, it's going to get better, it's going to get better. The same story of so many people. And then not only a few weeks into the year one, where it's even more intense in a way than reception, where at least they can play, although he never played in the playground with anyone and was on his own. But he started year one, and just that was crisis point then. He was just a monster, basically. He tore my clothes, he was punching me, he just absolutely lost control of his whole body every single day, and it was dangerous. It was scary. And it was just him completely unable to cope with life. It was so sad.
At that time, what did you think was going on for him?
I definitely at this point was like, this child has to be autistic or something.
Okay,
Like
so
I definitely, I think I already had suspicions when he was at school and all of this was going on. I was like, it's strange that all of these 28 children go into school every day and don't, melt down on the playground and holding onto my ankles and ripping clothes. And I kind of straight away was like, right, okay, this definitely is different. And I wonder why I was like that too. And it all just made me go, right, okay, I don't know. And to be honest, my family were always like, yeah, if you need to take him out of school, do it. But we didn't know what that was going to look like. We didn't know, how we were going to make that work. It didn't even feel like it was going to be a long-term choice. It was just, we need to do this now because this child is in crisis point and we're his parents. And no matter what everyone's telling me, that they can get a diagnosis, they can help him with, taking him out of class, and they can do all of these things. I don't think anything by that point, when he was so poorly and so mentally frazzled and really hated himself. He would say things like, I want to die, I don't want to be here, I hate my life. That's a little 5-6 year old boy. That is tragic. And the only thing that I wish I'd just done it sooner, because he just it was before lockdown, and then lockdown happened and we were all together, and it just felt like this time that I don't have any bad feelings about that whole lockdown experience, because honestly for me and my family, it was just this time of being together and getting to know each other again, and be like, the world can just stop because we need this to stop right now. We need to just let stand. And that was when his 6th birthday was, actually, so he was 5 when he was at school. And he just started to really slowly heal a little bit. But that school trauma is still there 6.5 years later. That's not something that just
doesn't go, does it? I was going to ask that, Linsey, what's the recovery been like? Because often, or this, lots of parents are kind of like, do I keep going with this, or do I come out? And all of, like you said, the kind of the feelings that come with that. But then also, it doesn't just end when they come out. There's the kind of getting them into school and all of that ends. But the recovery time and
so long.
And I don't think you can't underestimate that, can you?
No, I truly believe that he's still recovering 6.5 years later. I don't know if ever it will fully, that school trauma. He might still find that he's an adult and might get triggered by something that was something his experience at school. He still talks about things. Only a few months ago he told me something I'd never known that happened, and there's things that I won't talk about here today, but I can't believe he still has such clear memories. And I think we're fooled to think that children just forget stuff. They don't remember this stuff. This just happens to everyone, and this is what they have to go through. Our children have nervous systems that remember everything. They're so in tune with how they work. He talks very clearly about exactly what happened, what was said, how things, and he's still processing it now. He absolutely is. And I think with the learning side of things, he's very well into being healed, because now he is accessing more formal education, which I never thought would happen. He's still very self-led. He's doing functional skills instead of GCSEs, but he can do it himself and just work through it, which I can't believe we're even in the position that is happening. I didn't think that would happen even a year ago maybe, but he's very much, when he wants to get somewhere, because he's got in mind what he wants to do with his life and what he is thinking he's really good at, and so he's got an aim, and I'm just following his lead, and we're always kind of scanning what opportunities can we give him, how can we help him to access things. And it might not always work. It could trigger school trauma. He could, he sometimes accesses online groups where someone is way too schooly, like an adult is way too schooly for him, and he just is like, no, absolutely not. I can't do that. That's way too. So he did have a maths tutor for a little while, But once that was kind of the novelty wore off, then it's kind of, which has been the story of Stan, like, it's always he'll access things for a little while, and once it's kind of he's done with it.
Yeah.
But instead of thinking, I used to always think, oh, like, what are we going to do now? Now I know that he takes what he needs out of things and then he moves on. Like, he'll do Spanish Duolingo for a whole year and then just suddenly be like, yeah, I can't do that anymore. But that's just because there'll be something else that's going to come up, and he, you know, I just really trust him that it's going to be okay, because it is okay, and he's showing me the way all the time.
Yeah, there's that term school trauma isn't something that many people will understand, and it's something that many people don't believe.
Yeah.
And you know, you've experienced it as an adult and with your child.
Yeah.
We work all the time, so behind the scenes we know this story and similar stories of people experiencing describable trauma in the body, trauma in terms of not feeling safe, their mental health becoming really dysregulated, not being able to see the child in front of you as your child because they're so affected traumatically. And certainly when we have tried to explain to schools, to local authorities, this child is experiencing school trauma, and we explain what it is, we are told that's not a diagnosable thing because it's not in the diagnostic statistical manual, the DSM, but trauma is.
Yeah.
And trauma can happen anywhere. And I think it's really incredible what you're doing and raising the voice about that specifically, that school is thought to be one of the safest places you can be. And for some people that might be fairly true, but for some children, and especially neurodivergent children, that environment is traumatizing to their nervous system, isn't it? And to their relationship, to their sense of trust in the world, to all kinds of different things.
Absolutely. I think for me, because I was that child that was the school refuser, people say, how did you just choose this? Like, you're so brave. I just can't quite, they're always messaging me like, I can't quite make the leap. I don't believe, because they were maybe okay at school, maybe they don't quite, but because I guess lucky that I align so much with Stan, our nervous systems work so, like, we're very different in some ways as well, but we do work in such similar ways that I think I get it. And I saw what happened was really quite powerful in that I saw myself in him. I saw that child school refuser. I know how that feels because that was me. And I wasn't allowed to stop. I just lost myself by just pushing through and pushing through and pushing through. And I did do school, but I wasn't okay. I was never okay. I absolutely struggled in many more ways than I ever told people. I, got in trouble a lot. I was just a bit of a rebel. I, didn't do anywhere near as well as what I probably could have done because I didn't understand that I had ADHD and I just couldn't concentrate, and people were just speaking at me and it meant absolutely nothing. And they'd be like, oh, get on then, do, what we're doing. And I'd be like, I have no idea what's going on, because I'd just be absorbing the environment for an hour. And, there's so many things that I think it didn't work for me. I know that I did okay. I know that I came out with qualifications, and I know that I'm bright, but I don't think any of that came from school. I really don't, because all I did was struggle. I hated it. I hated myself. I came out not understanding myself one little bit. I still am working on that now, because, and so when I saw Stan, it really didn't take me very long, a year, but I thought, I can't do this to him because I know what it feels like, and I know the end result is not good. It's really not good. I truly believe that I could have done so much more if I had understood myself. And I know Stan does understand himself now, but I still don't think that system and that environment is right for him. And I still, knowing yourself and understanding your diagnosis and understanding, being really self-aware and self-advocating the way he does like an absolute pro, still wouldn't mean that he can just go there and deal with that. It still just wouldn't be the right thing for him. And so, I think it just made it an easy choice in a way, because there was that little girl inside of me going, help this boy, please help him, because nobody helped you, but you can do different, and this is going to be something that's going to heal you as well. And I think that's the most amazing thing, really, because I'm just kind of so happy that my children already know themselves better than what I do, like, because they're just trusting themselves and following what they're truly good at and what they enjoy and what brings them life, and you know, and that's all life is about, really, isn't it? You just got to, you're going to get there. You still can get a degree, you can still be a professional, you can still do any of those things, because if you have the self passion and drive, you're going to do it anyway. There's no system and no structure and no teacher that can ever teach you what's inside of you, and it's always gonna, you know, if you just let that kind of come out, it's going to get there without people doing harm by it, and actually changing it and changing people and making you feel not enough, or you know, that's what the school system did to me. It definitely didn't do any good by me at all. It just did bad.
Thank you for sharing that, Linsey. And what was it like for you then, kind of as a mum, like realising, or you know, taking him into school and seeing everything that's happening in front of you? What was that? What was your experience like of that? And at what point did you think, right, this definitely no more?
Yeah.
I'm not doing this anymore.
It was absolutely traumatising. Really was. I can't stress enough how much I was just in such a bad place. Like, I was tearing my hair out. I just cried all the time, and because of that, school and teachers then latch on to the fact that you're not doing good, and that's why your child, like, look at the state of you, sort of thing. But they have no idea that you're literally dealing with a child that won't eat, won't sleep, that hates themselves, that doesn't have any joy in life whatsoever. And as a mum to a little boy, you just think, what on earth have I done? What have I done? Like, this is awful. I felt so bad. And because all the outside noise was just, keep going, Linsey, it's going to be okay, you know, it's going to be all right soon. Oh, and you could see the mums in the playground every morning were like, oh gosh, here she comes again, with him screaming and punching her and just pretty much dragging him along.
Probably judging.
And kind of like looking at me in sympathy. But I was thinking, I just don't know who is ever going to be able to help this situation. But also, I think for quite a few months, I didn't know what other choice to make. I felt like I was just stuck. I was stuck in this situation that everyone was kind of giving me a pat on the shoulder. Oh dear, this is bad. But at the same time, there's no answers. There was no one actually saying, this isn't normal. Like, when everyone's seeing a child distressed to that capacity every single day, and not kind of thinking, this maybe should, you know, something needs to stop. Like, why didn't they ever see Stan and say, you know, I think this is doing harm by him? That's what I was kind of hoping, that someone was going to go, stop this, like, we need to do something different.
Like permission.
But, it's kind of because I think I was young. I didn't really know what I know now, and I needed someone to go, this isn't normal. But all everyone kept saying is, this is normal, Linsey, this is going to be okay, this is, you know. And
but that's how strong the school system is, and you should put your child in school. That's how strong it is, that a child is in trauma, whether they knew that or used that term or not. Clearly a distressed child, clearly a distressed mum, and then what happens is you're blamed for not coping, you know, quotation marks, and it's pushed the child even harder and even further, and just wait, and eventually this will go away. Like, that is many people's opinion.
Because you as a mum, you become, like, you're the most trusted person, aren't you, for your child? But you're then putting them into that environment. It's then like for like, who do I trust now then? Because you're doing.
And their voices seem to be much more powerful than parents. They seem to be that once your child's in that system, then you listen to the adults in that system, and you become. Parents feel really like they don't get to have a say anymore. It's a really strange situation to be in, that I find they're kind of wanting to, and they're shaking the rails outside and saying like, listen to me, and emailing all the time, but nobody listens. It's just kind of like, oh, everything just gets fobbed off all the time. We went all different directions. We had so many meetings. We tried to change things in all different ways, and none of it was actually ever going to work. And deep down, I knew that. And I think months before I took him out, I said to my husband, we're going to have to do something different. Like we already had moved in schools, by the way. So it already had like 2 reception classes. And we were thinking we're going to have to move him to a like different type of school, maybe a smaller school, or maybe get his diagnosis, and then he can go to like a special needs school. But I was like, he doesn't need he doesn't fit anywhere. He doesn't need that. It's just that. But yeah, I think it was more I was still in a place of not being very confident in myself, and because I was so worried that I had been through this as a child, and everyone says I turned out okay.
Yeah,
so, you know,
classic, isn't it?
yeah, that's the thing. And so that in the back of my head, I was just thinking, but you were that child, Linsey, and you're all right. Like, and it was kind of that negative talk in my head of you can't make these wild choices. That even friends in my life at the time were really negative about it. When I kind of brought up the thought of taking him out of school, it was never met like confidently well, like positive light whatsoever. It was always just kind of like, really?
There's a huge amount of resistance towards unschooling, homeschooling, alternative education, provision. Where do you think that comes from?
I don't know. I just honestly think that most of us have grown up in the system ourselves, and so we just don't realise how much brainwashing it has had over us, and how much it implements like so much into our lives. It's honestly coming out of that now. I can now see inwards and go, wow, like really we really believe that children need to be this certain way, and children need to learn this certain thing, and children need at this time and this space and this, you know, it's, to me now, it's absolutely bonkers that it is the way it is. And I understand that there's not really any space, time, money to have this flexible system. And I know you've talked about so many times before how the system is broken. I think everyone knows even in it that the system's broken, that they can't change it. There's no kind of alternative. But I think what would be really helpful is that people are quite in denial within the system and could just start advocating for children in it that really aren't doing good, that really aren't they really are struggling. And everyone just keeps quiet about it. They'll be okay, like that sort of thing.
And also maybe thinking, like, reducing the stigma and the judgment around alternative types of schooling and learning. Like, if the resources are not there in school, and they can't change everything to make everybody happy, and other people want to make other choices, not making it so difficult, maybe making it not just bureaucratically difficult or less difficult, but psychologically allowing people to feel more safe to make that decision. You could draw on your personal experience, which help you trust and believe your child, but as you said, not everybody has that to draw on. And even if they do, they still might have that, my child should be in school, instilled in them. But if society isn't saying, do you know what, if that's safer for your child and your child's going to get their education, go for it. Why the resistance? Why do people think it's so, like you said, the word wild, like the wild decision? People actually think it's a crazy, wild, rebellious, you're going to do, like, harm will come to your child if you do that. They won't get the education. They won't get socialised. They won't. What would you say to some of them?
That's what I was going to say. Like, what would you say?
You can chip in.
I just think it's just really sad, actually. I think it's really sad that we, as a society, have just come to this place that children have to be a certain way. And that's, I think, why it's not a coincidence that all of these adults, I've listened to so many episodes just in your conversations here, that so many people are having to figure themselves out as adults because they just didn't understand why. And where's that come from? Where? I just think it doesn't, if children were allowed to be individuals from a much younger age, I wonder if they would actually never need to, that's what I'm hoping for anyway, that they won't need to get to their 30s and 40s and 50s and have to refigure themselves out and think about what they like and what they want to do. I don't think it's normal that any 16-year-old child should have to be choosing what they want to do with the rest of their lives. Like, I think children should just be children. And I don't think there is space for that in the system. And I think parents are so fixated on making children adults instead of just letting them be children. And I think that's where it comes from, is this inbuilt that we need to make children independent. We need to make them, you know, think for themselves and do all the same as everyone else. And actually that's where this kind of radical, scary, they're thinking, well, we can't let children just be, you know, wild. But they're honestly not. They're just beautiful, individual, self-driven, like, experts already. And I think how amazing that they're going to get to live their lives not like us as neurodivergent adults, having to figure it all out because we just lost ourselves in the system. That, and I think if parents really thought about it, they would also see that you strip it all back and really it's just a system that is so tight-knit that you're in, you can't get out of. It's one way only. No matter how much advocating, no matter how much you try to make it more fluid, it's never going to be. Your child is squished into this space and they're not going to be free of it until whatever the result is at the end, which you don't know. I think people also think that it's like, well, they're definitely going to come out and be all right then. They're definitely going to have a career, or they're definitely going to have... That's just a absolute... It's wrong. It's not... That's not the case for everyone. It really isn't. No. And even if they do well and do get qualifications and do go on to do something, it doesn't mean that that's what they actually wanted to do. If they, weren't changed and moulded to be like everyone else, it's lots of people are like, this isn't the job I want to be in. This is not what I wanted to do with my life. It's just... that's what happened because of school, that's just how the path that was made for me. And I don't think we should be so scared to let children just, put some paving down for themselves, because children are so clever and children are so able to advocate and understand and self-aware. Like, I think adults are so quick to go, well, they can't do that and they can't. Obviously you have to guide them, and obviously you can't let them just completely, they're children, you have to look after them, you have to be there and support them and help them. But for me, it's all about connection, and that's what the difference, I think, between, I see all these school-going families and I see how disconnected they are, and then I look at families like mine and lots on Unschooling Stanley, I'm like, how beautiful that they really are truly just focusing on connection and how that can change everything, and how I wish that was what I had, because I think that would have really supported me in my life, and I'd probably be, different now. I'd probably be able to, I don't know, I always say maybe I would have been an expert in something if I hadn't been to school, because it's kind of like I really truly feel like I would have been an expert. Like, I see my children already experts in planes and Minecraft and roller coasters. Stan's absolutely sure he's going to be making real life roller coasters one day, like engineering. So, but I think, gosh, I don't even know. I don't know what I like and what I'm good at. I still don't. I'm 35 and I don't know what I want to do with my life after. At the moment, I love being a mum.
We're sold, aren't we? We're sold a, you go to preschool, you go to school, then you go to college, you get your degree, you get your job, you get married. We're sold that whole thing, isn't it? And then people get to like their late 30s, early 40s, whatever, and it's like, well, I've done exactly what you've asked me to do. Well, who am I? And this is not what this is not. You kind of find yourself in a situation, don't you, that doesn't fit who you are, because you never discovered who you were as a child.
I don't think school is it's a place where children may spend huge amount of their developing time, and it's not just a place for education. It's a place where you need to go to the toilet sometimes outside of the allocated time that they say. It's a place where you can't move if you want to move. It's restrictive, and as you talk about, Linsey, it disembodies people from themselves from knowing who they are, what they want, or it's perhaps telling them that it's wrong to do that or want that or be that way. And so, no, it isn't just education. It's like, this is your identity forming, this is your body developing, your nervous system wiring, all in development in these institutions. So why aren't they thought about a little bit more from that way? I know there's pastoral care, I know there's growing awareness of various things, but there's still a fundamental thread that children should be in school. So unless that's relaxed a little bit, the other stuff is all going to be about keeping them in school. And so it doesn't completely fit.
No. What would you say, Linsey, as well, like to parents, or they probably reach out to you, you know, that are, their child is experiencing the same thing, and they just don't know what to do, and do they, because we see that, like, do you take them out of school, and what if I do that, what if this happens, and it's like a constant, and then I don't want to be putting them in there. And have you got anything that you might kind of...
It's really difficult, because I think it's such an individual experience, because some people, I think I say to everyone, if you were in the situation that I was in, it was at the point where there was no other choice. And I think any other parent would make the same decision. So there's that kind of extreme kind of place where you just, when your child's kind of rumbling on, like it's not doing good for them, they're having meltdowns at home, but they're apparently fine at school. And there's this whole, you know, there's this whole thing that parents are really struggling to believe what's true, like believe their child that they hate school and they're anxious there and they really, you know, don't like people or teachers or the environment, or they're not eating, or, you know, whatever it is. They kind of think, but on the other side, I'm hearing back that you're doing really well academically, or you're doing, you know, so there's this battle, and I totally get it. And I think all we can do as parents is just truly believe and witness what our children are trying to tell us, and instead, and just try and shut out all of that other stuff, because at the end of the day, none of the academic stuff matters if your child is going to be broken at the end of it. It really doesn't matter. Like, it's just kind of thinking, I wonder if one day they still can do the things that you're wanting them to. And I kind of say to parents, I totally get it that you really want your child to, obviously you don't have a child and want them to not be successful in their life, or not, you know, become an adult, but at the same time, maybe nurturing them to just be okay, be truly well, not just fine, not just, you know, managing, not just coping, truly know who they are, truly feel safe in their skin to be who they are. And as neurodivergent children, I don't think there's anything more important. And I think that's the bit where parents really need to decide, like, is it truly them just struggling a little bit, or are they actually you know, get like building this school trauma that's going to affect them for the rest of their lives, or really have an impact on their well-being physically as well.
I think it does get, because there was a similar thing with my youngest, like you get to a point where you're like, this cannot, like, you have no choice in the end, do you, because the dysregulation is just becoming more and more and more. And also, like, I remember one day, and he went off to school, and then it took me 5 hours to get back to a point of regulation. Not because I'd lost it with him, I hadn't, but just because you're holding so much, aren't you? And then you're just like, this is not working. This isn't just a little bit of anxiety, or there's something much bigger. And then because of our work, you already know the kind of trajectory, don't you, of what's going to happen. But I think,
and it's a knock-on effect on the parent and the whole family as well. So the stress that my baby toddler, when that was all going on, we were dragging Stan to school every day, like, how was that for that little boy that was also involved in that? And it just really had a knock-on effect, because I think my nervous system was absolutely all over the place. I was just so emotional, I was so dysregulated. I was angry with life because I was like, this is just awful. Like, is this really what life is about? And so me and my husband were not getting on. It was just awful for the whole situation. So it's not just about that child and at school. It really has this whole thing that I honestly can say that my family was just miserable. We were so unhappy. We were trying everything to change everything else but school. It was like, well, maybe if we do this, and maybe if we do that, and maybe if we move closer to family. And that's what we did. We moved. My husband was still working in Sussex, and we moved back to the Isle of Wight, put Stan in a school there so that I was closer to my family. I lived in a horrible little flat because I was like, we still had our house in Sussex. I was miserable. I was so sad. I was so depressed. I was so anxious, and I was just on autopilot, and that's all I can explain. I was just in this fog of, and it was horrible. It was looking back, it was just an awful place to be. And nobody knew that I was struggling. Nobody knew. They knew Stan was struggling because he was shouting about it and screaming about it and, you know, throwing everything everywhere. But I was struggling too. And I think that's the bit that parents miss, is that it really has this huge impact on, we tried everything. We tried to make it work. And when you're like faced with making a choice of home education or unschooling or choosing to just really believe in your child and let's just let them be for a minute, just let them kind of recover, that's not just an easy decision. That's not just something, that's years or months of just stress, so much stress. And it's just I really can't explain how bad it was. It was really, really bad.
And I often think, you know, the community of unschoolers so often don't get the validation of what they went through as a family and as an individual. It's, you know, you're out of the system. So, you know, no one comes knocking on your door and says, how are you? By the way, I just wanted to check. And like, you know, other than checking in.
Just checking you are schooling. That's the check-in.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, you go through this trauma, and your child goes through this trauma, and it goes unrecognised and overlooked or, you know, mislabeled or whatever. But that, to me, perpetuates a trauma for people, and because they're not getting repair. They're not getting resolution. They're not being seen, and their voice is not being heard. And, you know, you have to carry that, knowing what you all went through, which is huge, isn't it?
And I think as the years go by, that story and how hard it was is kind of left behind, because now that you're just seen to just choose this way, which obviously we are for another child that hasn't had school trauma and hasn't had all of that. And I think that's come here because it just felt right that another neurodivergent child, completely different, you know, he would be very different in the system. I can see it, how it would kind of pan out. More like me, actually, a bit of a rebel and a bit loud and leery, and he would not be able to move his body. He's absolutely sport mad. He really needs so much sensory input, like he just verbally stims all day. I cannot even imagine him being told to sit still and be quiet for most of the day. Like it would destroy him. And so at 8.5 years old, he's absolutely loving his life. He still does all the learning, but he does it in the way that's right for him. He's bouncing on his ball, he's rolling on his ball, he's outside, we're doing maths while we're playing sport and darts and, you know, things that really do make it accessible for him. And I'm not saying it's easy, it really isn't. We're exhausted all the time.
That's the other thing people miss.
We're really exhausted. It's so hard work. And obviously I've dedicated this, instead of finding my way with a career or anything like this, has literally been my life for 12 years. But I wouldn't change it, because for me this is the work. If I can just if I can kind of live this and know that I'm giving my children the opportunity that I never got to just be an authentic neurodivergent person that just finds their way in life in a safe place, in a safe way, advocating and just knowing themselves so well, to me that's absolutely everything that I could give in life. And then it's hopefully amazing. You know, they tell their story one day, and that, you know, the ripple builds a wave, doesn't it? And it kind of is just truly changing the way that adults see children, changing the way that society sees children, just, you know, deciding that they are enough already. They don't need to be changed, they don't need to be shaped, they don't need to be quiet and sit still, they just need to be children, because that's already perfect the way they are. They're going to be adults for most of their life. They're going to be, you know, they will learn to clean and cook and pay bills because they're going to have to. But right now they're just children. And if we can just embrace that tiny snippet of life instead of trying to make them not be children, trying to make them be quiet and sit still and learn a certain way that doesn't even make sense to the way their brain works, or, you know, it's so...
It doesn't make sense when you break it down like that.
No, it really doesn't
make sense.
It doesn't.
It's so it really doesn't.
Bizarre. But it's just, I think, right now it is a life choice. It is now that, you know, we've come so far and seen so much good that we know our family and our children and how we work. And I wouldn't want to even risk, you know, people say to me, well, Albie might be okay. He might, you know, he's different to Stan. He might be okay. He might not get school trauma. But I don't want to risk if he's going to be okay or not, because Albie is Albie, and I know that if he goes to school, he won't be able to be Albie, because Albie is loud, Albie moves a lot, Albie does, you know, all of these things, and let's just let Albie be Albie, because he's only 8, and, you know, if one day he says to me, Mummy, I really want to try school, I'm not going to stop him. There's no, you know, I'm not this rigid, oh, we're only unschooling, and that's, you're not going to, you know, I'm very open to the fact that I'll lead wherever they, you know, if he wants to try school and then hates it, we'll go back to unschooling, you know. It's not, it's okay, it's all just following their lead and trusting that they're going to tell you what they need to try, how they figure things out. They just show me the way all the time. And when they, instead of keep forcing, I suppose, with the education system, it's like, but this is the way you have to do it to pass the test. Instead, with unschooling, you can be like, well, how does it work in your brain? How does it work for you? How do you get to that answer? Or how does, you know, what feels good to you to explain that? And I think that's the magic, is that for me, in the education system, a lot of it just never made sense, because my brain just didn't work the way people were trying to get me to work things, and that was the only way to be correct. Whereas for my children, they can tell us, well, this is the way that makes sense to me, this is how I'm working it out, and then we go, oh, okay, that's fine. So that's you know, and that's the difference, is that we're not trying to make them just learn one way, we're trying to just work with them.
Complete sense. I feel like we've been sat here for about 5 minutes. Our time's almost up. I know. I was checking my watch several times. I'm like, it actually is. So, I can't believe that has really flown. Like, there are thousands more questions. I'm really annoyed.
You have to come back.
So we ask every guest to bring in an object, something that kind of represents something in their life that grounds them, a story to share with the audience. What have you brought, Linsey?
So it actually broke, so don't tell Celia, but Celia made me a keyring a few months ago. She drew it, painted it herself, and we baked it in the oven. It's very cute. And the reason that I love this is because she said that the cloud is sad and the sun is happy, and there's a rainbow in between the cloud and the sun. And it just, when I was sat there that day doing, all 3 children were making these little key rings, and I just had a realization of how far I've come in this journey, because I was a stressed out, trying to control everything. When Stan was Celia's age, she's 3.5, I was probably just a shell of myself. I really felt lost in life. I thought I was a terrible mother. I just didn't know how things were ever going to be okay. And now, reliving the toddler years with the lenses of neurodivergent life and neurodivergent children and PDA and ADHD, and just having an understanding of all of it, it's like I've come out of that rain cloud into the sunshine, and I can just see my children just truly thriving, and that's just so special to me. It just really, That is
wonderful.
Isn't it? Oh.
I love that, Linsey. Oh, I don't want to say goodbye. Thank you so much for coming. You do have to come back. Normally we say it's optional, but there's no option. You have to come back. There's so much more I want to talk to you about. That was wonderful. So thank you, and thank you for coming all this way
Thank you for
sharing your story.